Nobody likes making major mistakes, and especially when those mistakes are extremely costly. I want to talk about 10 mistakes you need to avoid whether you're buying a house here in Santa Barbara or anywhere else in the country or the world. These mistakes are very universal, and I want to talk about how to avoid common mistakes when it comes to buying a house. So let's roll. Thanks so much for coming back to my channel. If you're here for the first time, my name's Avi. I'm a realtor, and for the past 4.5 years, I've been helping people buy, invest, sell, trade real estate here in Santa Barbara and beyond. I know a lot about the process, and I've seen others make mistakes, and I want to make sure you don't make those same mistakes. I want to list 10 mistakes you should avoid when it comes to buying a house in Santa Barbara or even beyond, and starting with number 1, understanding the costs of home ownership. Not just the cost of the down payment, the monthly payment, which is very important to understand, but also the costs of maintenance, the costs of HOAs, the costs of property taxes. You really want to have a full financial picture and know exactly how much you're going to be paying monthly and exactly how much associated costs are going to be coming with that property or maybe down the road. It's really good to understand how much money it costs to own a home before jumping into a big decision like that. Mistake to avoid number 2 is not researching enough, researching the area, researching the team that you're going to be working with, researching the different types of properties, researching your favorite need to have features in a home. That's a really important step you do not want to skip. Before you buy an expensive asset, you want to do a lot of research. You want to really know the neighborhoods, the areas that you want to be in. You want to work with a great team that's going to help you accelerate that research. Doing more research upfront in the beginning is going to help you a lot down the road. Mistake to avoid number 3 is not being thorough or understanding the inspection process. When you're under contract to buy a house, it is so important to do a thorough investigation of the property. That means roof, pests, sewer lateral, general inspection, maybe foundation, maybe electrical. It's really important to understand if the property has some things that need to be fixed, how much that's going to cost to fix it, potentially negotiating to have the seller cover some of those or give you a credit towards those repairs. You don't want to just go into a house and because it looks great and because it has new flooring, just waive your inspections or not care about getting the property properly investigated. It's really important to understand that when it comes to owning a house, there's a lot of hidden costs. There's a lot of things behind the scenes that can't be seen up front. So you really want to have professional inspectors make sure the property is in good standing, or if it's not, at least understand the scope of the work to make it in good condition. Mistake to avoid number 4, this one's important, is not understanding the natural hazards that are potentially impacting the property you want to purchase. Here in Santa Barbara, there's properties in the hills and the mountain areas that are higher fire designation and sometimes have to be evacuated in terms of fire. There's also properties nearby creeks and rivers that can potentially overflow in big times of heavy torrential rainfall. You really want to understand if your property potentially has risk for hazard, making sure that you're getting the right type of insurance, making sure you have a plan if you're in a higher fire zone to evacuate when there's fires nearby. And if you're really adverse to those types of risks, you want to be buying a property that doesn't have hazards nearby. It's just something good to research and understand beforehand. Common mistake to avoid number 5. This one honestly could be number 1 because it's so important, but not working with a great local team when it comes to buying your house. That means finding a great real estate team that's local, that has a great track record, that really understands the area, as well as a local lender who understands the loan process in your market, who knows the local appraisers, and who can get things done on time. Obviously, if you're buying in cash, it doesn't apply to you, but having a great team to support you is really going to make the process easy. It's going to help you avoid not just these mistakes that I'm listing, but a bunch of others. That's one that you really should highlight when it comes to buying a house. You want to have a great team to support you throughout the decision. Number 6 mistake to avoid is not understanding your long-term timeline and your horizon. If you're going to be at that property for a year or 2, you want to know the ins and outs of what it's potentially going to take to resell it, or if you're going to hold it as a rental. You want to really have a long-term decision, just like when you're investing money into any other assets. You want to know if you're going to potentially be moving soon, or if you're going to be there for a long time. If you're only going to be in town for a year and moving somewhere else, maybe the best decision is to just hold off and continue to rent. You really want to know the long-term horizon. If you're going to be buying that property and holding it as a rental, how long. You want to understand your full financial picture and your long-term game plan when it comes to making an expensive decision like buying a house. Mistake to avoid number 7 is not understanding what property type is the best fit for you and your family. Sometimes when people are just getting in the entry level, they want a 1 or 2 bedroom condo that's very simple and low maintenance. But if you want a yard and an area with pets, you want to understand the property type that's best for you. Even looking at options like duplexes and triplexes, and I made videos in the past breaking down the pros and the cons of those. Knowing what property type is best for you is going to help you narrow down your search, be more specific, and maybe make this process a lot easier. Mistake to avoid number 8 is overextending your budget. Even if it's at the top point that you're pre-approved to, it's always good to understand how much money you need to bring to the table and always have a reserve, because things happen. There's additional costs and damages that sometimes pop up even after you bought the home. You don't want to over leverage yourself where if something bad was to happen, if an emergency was needed and you need additional funds, that you're totally hung out to dry. You really want to make sure you have some reserves and don't put yourself in a situation that's really difficult. Even if that means not getting, the property with all the bells and whistles or having a pool, you don't want to overextend your budget to make things uncomfortable in case something comes up. Common mistake to avoid number 9 is not understanding the HOAs and the bylaws and the rules of the community. Obviously, this doesn't apply to every property type, but whether you're in a gated community or a condo association, you really want to have a thorough understanding of the HOAs, the costs, the rules that are allowed. Certain HOAs don't allow for pets. Most HOAs here in Santa Barbara don't allow for short-term rentals. You really want to know the ins and outs of what is going on in that HOA and the bylaws that are associated with when you're doing research in certain communities. Okay, the last one on the list, mistake to avoid, number 10, is rushing the decision. Whether it's here in Santa Barbara or anywhere else, honestly, in the world, buying real estate is one of the most expensive decisions you'll probably ever make. You want to take your time, do a lot of research, take your time even selecting your team that's going to support you, and really have a full understanding of the process before you go for it. I've seen a lot of mistakes being made because things are rushed and people aren't taking their time. So I really want to emphasize that take your time. Don't let anyone else pressure you. Really understand the ins and outs of the process before you end up buying a house. Okay, so wrapping up, those are 10 mistakes to make sure to avoid when it comes to buying a house here in Santa Barbara or honestly anywhere. Let me know in the comments below if there's any mistakes that I missed or that you've seen been made in the marketplace. Really appreciate all your guys' comments, your likes, your subscribes, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Thanks again for tuning in.